process.
Dialectical process.
Was that video?
Was it recording?
Yep. So the questions that we could talk about are about, are we acting like we're living in a post-sexist world, even though we're not?
Right.
Accountability and polity in church planting.
Yes.
And the intersection with gender and sexism.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Did it warm you up or burn you?
It warms me up, but it's about to be cool.
I remembered seeing a report from the UA Transitions Office a couple years ago, maybe a year ago, that showed that there are more women in ministry, in UU ministry, than men. And that's been a trend, I think, since the 1990s, possibly even before. Or maybe there were more women entering for a longer time, and now there are actually more women fellowshipped. So that's just, that just seems like an important question to ask then. If we know that statistically there should be some women involved in these conversations and some women starting their own congregations in one way or another, just based on the numbers, then when we look at the field of what's happening right now, and also what's been happening historically, it's mostly men that go out there on their own and make the bold move and start the new church. And the women that we were able to uncover in our research, I think we only found two, right? Were Alma Crawford and I think it's Yvonne Sayon, who's Dave Chappelle's mom, who started a church in D.C.
Two in the sort of...
In the last 50 years.
Yeah. There's the Iowa Sisterhood.
There was the Iowa Sisterhood.
Don't forget the
Back in
Iowa
the day.
Sisterhood. Okay, continue.
No.
The cis men that we're on teams with, that we are colleagues of ours who are doing church planting, how much they want to be allies. And how many conversations, how many email check-ins and phone check-ins and formal and informal moments that we've had with men who really on some level see the sexism and patriarchy that is being perpetuated in church planting and emerging ministries, and they want to resist and fight it, and there's tears and feelings and trying again, and we're still doing it. And so I guess part of that is my personal shout out to my male colleagues who do this work, and the work that they have done as allies and continue to do. And it's also to say that I guess it's not an academic thing, it's not a theoretical thing, it's happening.
Yeah.
In the meetings we go to, in the emails that get sent, in what kind of communication gets action and response, in who's remembered as the face of an organization, in what names are associated with what new ministries.
One of the stories that I have from doing church planting work or with one of the teams that Elizabeth is referring to has to do with the larger Unitarian Universalist movement and how they have seen the work that I've done or seen the work that the team has done. And I will very frequently get asked in new places and new UU circles, oh, this project, and they'll list the name, they'll recognize the project and they'll list the name of the men who are involved in the project as names that they recognize, whereas the project that so-and-so started, which has been an interesting dynamic for me because it was both sort of the inception of the project was with these people, and I joined so early in the planning process that it is notable to me that it's recognized still after 3 years as the project that belongs to the men. And so few people recognize the work that the women in the group have contributed, even though for a long time the planning team of this project was 5 women and 2 men, and pretty consistently the 2 men were lifted up as the sort of owners of the project.
There's something I wanted to say, but I can't remember.
You'll remember!
Structure-wise, it seems to me that the church plants or the emerging ministries are not considered congregations, so they're not really in a congregational relationship to the UUA
or
and
to each other.
or to each other. And then with that, then who are these emerging ministries accountable to? Who are these leaders accountable to? Who are they in relationship, and are they in formal relationships or informal relationships? And how do those networks sort of perpetuate a male model of ministry, or this sort of rogue or final frontier of church leadership that isn't accountable or isn't in relationship as much as some of the structures that we've sort of built over the years.
And we've built structures because we know that without structures, we default
to the societal norm,
right?
Which
to
is,
the norms and the dominant expressions of leadership or ministry.
Right. In society and in our own history as well.
Right. Yeah. And it is structure that allows us to resist and to prioritize justice over what's easy.
One of the most interesting things that you said when we were talking about this earlier was the very idea of church planting is something that, at least in the model that it's traditionally talked about, is something that happens when a person goes out and enacts a vision with no accountability whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think about this too in my own thinking about future church plants and what I might like to do. I have an idea, and I have every right to have an idea and think it's a great idea and want to try it. But it's just so interesting that that model is accountable to no one. I mean, you go out there with your plan and you recruit some people to help you if you need it, and you try to get some money if you need it, but you do your thing. And so there's no, with the fellowship model, and I'm not saying that we should all just only do the fellowship model. I think that there's a lot of room for experimentation, and that's why I'm so passionate about it. But one thing about that model is that it comes out of a gathered community.
Yeah.
And a gathered community is what is calling this new thing into being, as opposed to one person coming out with a vision and saying, I'm going to plant this, and I'm going to see who's attracted to it. It's just a very, very different kind of relationship between the leader and the community. So I think there's space for that, but I also do think that that kind of approach can have a tendency to reify the power structure of patriarchy, of dominance, of oppression, when the sort of natural accountable relationship between the congregation and the minister is very different, is almost subverted.
And the thing that I think is true for the three of us as individuals is that we are so committed and driven to pursue UU communities, building UU communities beyond congregations, and it's because of that commitment that this matters so much to us. Like, this is how we are doing our ministries.
Patriarchy is bad!